Breaking news. I love food. And this time of year is my favorite for that reason. It is holiday meal time, and Festival Foods wants to help you with your holiday meals. Head to festfoods.com and find all of the opportunities to lean on them. You name it, they got it. And Festival Foods is across the state of Wisconsin. So if you are feeling the pressure of the holiday meal in your house or feeling the pressure of the dish to pass that you have to bring and don't want to disappoint, head to Festival Foods. They have everything that you would need to have your back and have your holiday gathering a memorable one with good food and great camaraderie and the family that sometimes you only get to see once a year, luckily for some. Head to Festival Foods and make this holiday memorable and let them help you with your holiday meal. Festfoods.com.
We want you to do a whole lot more than just save money. We want your money to grow, just like your dreams. We want you to achieve financial well-being and the feelings that go along with that. Capital Credit Union, doing the right thing.
Shut up and sit down.
What's up, Wisconsin? Welcome back to the Inside Wisconsin podcast here on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. Trevor Thomas and my guest today, Stephen Watson of FanDuel Sports, formerly of WISN 12, and once a Badger, always a Badger, a graduate of UW-Madison. Inside Wisconsin Sports every morning on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., is all about today and tomorrow and what's happening, happened, and to happen in Wisconsin sports. This podcast is sharing with you the people behind Wisconsin sports and not what they do or how they do it, but who they are. What has their journey been? And you'll hear from Stephen Watson today. The journey is the reward. So let's jump in. A chat with FanDuel Sports, Bucks, Brewers, and golf fanatic, Stephen Watson on the Inside Wisconsin podcast.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by Lane's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Amplify Health, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Legit Pizza, and Miller Lite.
Stephen Watson, the Inside Wisconsin podcast. Thanks for jumping on, brother. Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be a guest. I'm a big fan of the show.
I appreciate that. That's very kind. We've been doing this 5 years. It's hard to believe that we're at the end of 5 years. When we first started this, dude, nobody was doing what we were doing. And now everybody's doing what we're doing, including guys like yourself. I mean, you're everywhere. How many years has it been since you moved on from Channel 12?
Yeah, it's my fourth year at the Regional Sports Network level. Yeah, it's been great, man. I never thought that I would live in Wisconsin as long as I have. You know, I'm a proud Badger. Went to the University of Wisconsin, jumped around a couple of other TV markets before I found my way back to Milwaukee in November of 2014. I've now lived here for 11 years, which is still a wild sentence to say out loud. I'm born and raised in Philadelphia, so never envisioned myself living in Wisconsin. But when I came here, I started Channel 12 and, you know, just really loved the sports market, loved the people I worked with. Loved the fans, and then I met my now wife, and we've been together since February of 2016. We now have 2 kids, a house, a dog, and I tell people this all the time, that Wisconsin just has this way of like opening its arms, bringing you in, and never letting go.
Yeah.
And I've felt all of that in my time here. So I've been here for 11 years, and just so excited that I can continue doing what I love here in this state and covering these teams.
I was going to ask you what made you fall in love with Wisconsin, but it sounds like a Wisconsin girl fell in love with you, and that'll do it.
Yeah. Honestly, it's just so easy to live here. You know, like I love Philadelphia. My family lives in Philadelphia. It will always be home to me. But there's just such an ease of being in the Midwest, and being able to cover professional sports and teams that I've, you know, grown to root for as well throughout my time. It's been a blessing, honestly. But my wife is from here, and we want to live by family. So for us, it was a pretty easy decision. It was Milwaukee or Philadelphia. Philadelphia wasn't there career-wise, and Milwaukee's just given me this opportunity to grow and be able to, you know, put some roots down here and cover these great teams and be able to expand beyond that and still be able to call Milwaukee home. So right now, knock on wood, I've kind of got a perfect scenario going career-wise and life-wise, and hoping to keep it running as long as I possibly can.
It's good for you to say that for somebody not from Wisconsin, because those that grew up here are like, man, it's just the same old thing every day. Not that we don't love it. We do. I have a passion.
Yeah.
And you're a transplant. You're like, dude, this is where it's at. This is where you want to be.
Yeah, the grass isn't always greener. I mean, I grew up living outside of a big city, and I love it. I love Philadelphia. I love going there. I root for all the teams. I love being in the big city. But like when you get around Milwaukee and you're like, oh, like 10 minutes of traffic is the most traffic you're dealing with, like 20 minutes to the airport. I can live in the suburbs and be at Fiserv Forum or American Family Field within 15 minutes. Like that's just not a reality in some of these bigger cities. But the main thing for us is just being around family. So that's been kind of the main reason why we've wanted to stay. And with my wife being from here and, being able to kind of grow our network of friends and family here in Milwaukee, we just love it. It's been such a good place to us.
So you mentioned Madison. That's where
Yeah.
you got the old degree. And now you're at FanDuel doing Brewers and Bucks. But take me back to your college days, and then we'll kind of cover your time in TV.
Yeah.
What made you choose Madison over other colleges that you were looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I'm that classic sports broadcaster story where I've known I've wanted to do this since I was a little kid. And, I just always would watch games differently than other kids or even my family members. I would listen more than I would watch. And I've always known that I wanted to get into this space. I actually started the sports broadcasting club at my high school in Philadelphia. And crazy enough, the two best friends that I started with are also still in this business. My buddy Alex Cohen is the play-by-play fill-in for Boo Shiambi for the Chicago Cubs and Marquee Sports Network. And my other best friend, Josh Getzoff, is the TV voice for the Pittsburgh Penguins for Sportsnet Pittsburgh. And it's pretty surreal that all three of us are still chasing our dreams right now, starting in high school. I can share a funny picture with you if you want of the three of us broadcasting back in 2007, calling some high school sports in the Philadelphia area. But and that's also kind of pushed me along is watching their successes, and we've all been able to motivate each other and inspire each other to continue chasing this dream. And so I went to the University of Wisconsin because I knew they had a great journalism school, but I also wanted to be around Big Ten athletics. I didn't want to go to Penn State like the rest of my graduating high school class. I wanted to go to a Big Ten school. Had looked at Michigan, maybe got deferred, couldn't get in. And then it came down to Wisconsin, Penn State, and Maryland, and I visited Madison. This is a classic. I mean, if you live in Wisconsin, these days. It was an April day and 65 degrees. My mom and I are standing at the terrace in Madison, and I look out over the lake, and I'm like, 65 degrees in April, Lake Mendota, sign me up. Only to find out that my freshman year would go on to be the coldest statistical winter in Wisconsin history. But no, they tricked me, and it was the best decision I ever made. I loved my 4 years in Madison, and clearly loved it enough to want to come back and cover teams in Wisconsin. And now call myself a proud Scotty of, gosh, I guess 16 years I've lived in Wisconsin, which is pretty crazy to say between college and where I'm at right now.
It's crazy, and yet it goes fast.
Yeah.
You do what everybody else did, which is you went and started your TV career in a different market outside of Wisconsin, small town Dakotas, right?
Yeah, Bismarck, North Dakota. First on-air job.
So when you were doing that, were you constantly wondering when you could get back to Wisconsin? Is this where you thought you would land eventually?
No, I mean, the goal was always Philly.
Sure.
And, Philly or Chicago or Boston. And as you move on in this industry, you're just chasing opportunities and you're trying, everything's about timing. You could be the most talented person in the world, but if the timing's not there, you just sit there. And so I just had an opportunity when I was in Bismarck, North Dakota. I started in play-by-play broadcasting when I graduated from Wisconsin, and called 200 games in, I think, 300 days of high school sports and a regional sports network in North Dakota, which to this day, I still tell people is the most important job I ever took because it just got me reps. I learned how to fail on live TV, which is a really important skill set to learn because when you go through the fire and you get to this level, it doesn't feel like you're burning. And you're able to navigate situations that you would otherwise be unprepared for. So, I learned the ins and outs. I not only called games, but I set up broadcasts. I would set up the cameras, I'd run cables, I even directed games for other broadcasters, and it was the best decision I made career-wise because it was essentially like my grad school, right? Like that I didn't have to pay for. I was getting paid, wasn't getting paid much, but I was still, getting boots in the ground, hands dirty, just learning as much as I possibly could. From there, I knew I loved television, but I wanted to keep diversifying what I was doing in TV. So I went from play-by-play to the local news angle, and I was a weekend sports anchor for the NBC affiliate in Burlington, Vermont. And I spent 2 years there under the Hearst Television umbrella. And Hearst Television also owns WISN in
Mhm.
Milwaukee. And so after 2 years in Burlington, I was looking to keep moving up, and they were, really into moving people within their Hearst network. And they had a station in Boston that I was always really interested in. They weren't that interested in me at the time.
Hmm.
But there was an opening, and you talk about timing, an opening in Milwaukee, right as my contract was ending in Vermont. And I was like, Milwaukee, like always loved Summerfest when I go in the summertime, and
Yeah.
like Brewers, Bucks, Packers, and I get to cover my alma mater. Like, what a better opportunity. There's not many I can think of at the age of 25 than going to that market. And 25 turned into 36 real quick, and here we sit now. And it's been awesome though. It's been really fun. And yeah, so I spent about 6 years, 6.5 years at WISN, and been with what was Bally, now FanDuel Sports Network, since then.
Right. So I've heard you say that the journey is the reward
Yeah.
and that everybody has a story to share. And that's what I love about what I do, whether it's on the radio in the morning, talking about the day-to-day of Wisconsin sports, or doing the Inside Wisconsin podcast, and trying to help tell your story, because so many of us just watch you on TV, get jealous in a hurry based on what you're doing, who you're talking to, the games that you get to participate in. But we all see what you do and how you do it, but we don't know who you are. And so that's
Yeah.
why back when John and I first started talking about doing this podcast, it was about guys like you and other names and faces that we recognize in the state.
I appreciate that. That's awesome. Like that's what I love about what I do too. It's not covering athletes, it's covering people.
Amen.
And being able to humanize, people that we've built up on these pedestals, and being able to just treat them like humans. I think that's been something that served me really well in this business, and something that excites me the most is like talking to guys like Giannis and Yelich, and at the time Aaron Rodgers, off camera, and just getting to know them a little bit more, and learning like, yeah, like they have the same interests as you, or they might have different interests in you, but you talk about it. And that builds trust, that allows you to be a better reporter, and ultimately like the fans win out in the end because you're getting better responses and you're learning more about these stars than anything. I think like that's what being a journalist is about. We have this opportunity to be around these people that so many people want to get to know, and it's your job to tell their stories. And the ones who do it better than others is how you move up in this business. But it's just it is a really cool thing to step back and reflect on, and like that's where the journey is the reward. Really stands out to me is like the moments of reflection of when I was 23, I thought I was ready for ESPN.
Sure.
You know, heck, when I was in college, I did the Badger Report, and I was like, man, like, is ABC signing me yet? And then I watched back these clips, and I was like, wow, you were so bad. But like it, and that's the really fun thing about this business, is to be able to kind of check yourself, and be your own biggest critic, and watch yourself grow, and take those moments of reflection of being able to watch your tape back, or watch your tape 5 years later or 5 years earlier, and see how far you've come, not only just as a broadcaster, but as an individual. I mean, my life has changed so much, even in the 10 plus years that I've lived in Milwaukee. I was single and 25 and ready to move on to the next best thing. And now I've got a wife, 2 kids, a dog, and a house. And like my perspective shift has been so different now about how I prioritize my time. And it makes me a better broadcaster too, because it makes me, where my feet are is the most important thing. Like when I'm at home, I'm at home. And when I'm working, I realize, how unbelievable of an opportunity this is, and how many people want to be in that chair and covering these athletes. So it makes you work harder. And, that's kind of just when I talk about the journey being the reward, it's taking those moments to think about all those steps that led to that moment, that have come to define you and what you love to do, and just remind yourself daily about how unique it is to be in that position.
A lot of people try to get to the gig that you had at Channel 12, to
Yeah.
be a sports guy in a sports town in a state like Wisconsin, and yet you saw an opportunity with FanDuel or Bally back then. What was it that drew you away from local television?
Yeah, I think if career-wise, if I was going to continue to grow, I wanted to get to the regional level. I always said, like, I loved my time at Channel 12. I got to cover some pretty incredible things. Like my last year there, I covered the Bucks winning a final, NBA Finals, and the Ryder Cup. And if anybody knows anything about me, like golf is my passion. So to be able to cover a Ryder Cup, a historic one where Team USA won at Whistling Straits, like right in our backyard, to have those two events in like 90-day span was something I'll never forget. But if I wanted to keep growing in this business, I need to get around live games. And that was what was always appealing to me about, at the time it was Bally Sports, was finding a way to get around live games. Because that's something that's never going to go away in our business. Whereas the art of being a local sports anchor, it's changing so much. And any local sports anchor will tell you you're number 3 on that totem pole every single day you walk in that newsroom. It is weather, news, and sports. And as much as sports can be news on a day-to-day basis, it still is always going to look like that from a totem pole perspective. And that's a sobering reality and a tough pill to swallow as a local sports anchor in any market. Some markets do it better than others and prioritize sports more than others. But ultimately, like I realized that if I wanted to be in Milwaukee, which is where our family was and we were happy being, I really wanted to get to the regional level. And the timing worked out really well where I had that opportunity. And it's one of the best career decisions I made, not just for me personally, but when I made that transition, it was also when my daughter was born, my first child. And just being able to have a schedule and know what games I was covering and what time I needed to be at the ballpark or at the arena, it allowed me to be a better father and husband as well, which was more important to me than being a good broadcaster. So being able to find that balance once again and being able to schedule around, games and family time was really important to me. So it's funny how fate lines up and, huge life events and the transition periods, it kind of all came together really well for me. And I'm very fortunate. But yeah, it was one of the best career decisions I've ever made. And I'm glad that it's worked out this long.
Every once in a while on the radio, or when I was doing the public address announcing for GB men's basketball up here in Green Bay, I would forget I'm working.
Yeah.
I'd be talking about something or listening about something, and all of a sudden I'm like, crap, I'm hosting. Get it together, man.
Yeah.
Those are pinch me moments that people that watch us on camera or listen to us on the radio, you obviously have a golf show that you do every Tuesday. Where have you found that you have those moments for yourself? I cannot imagine what it was like to have Giannis look at you with those trophies and call you Stefan. And but those
Still calls me Stefan.
Does he really?
Yeah, I blame Stephen Curry because I think he
Right.
sees my spelling is the same as Stephen Curry, and like, who am I to say that my name is, more important, said Steven than Stefan to Giannis. So it's kind of become a running joke. I've tried to correct him many times, but
Doesn't care.
He's going with Stefan.
That's awesome. What are those moments, Steve, that it's not Steven, by the way. It's not Stefan, it's Steven. And does anybody call you Steve?
No, I'm not a Steve. I mean, in high school, maybe a little bit, but prefer Steven.
I caught myself. You're welcome.
No, that's all right. I'll roll with it. I've heard it before.
Sure. What are those pinch me moments, man? Because again, people view people like you at the regional level or me more on a local or state level and put us in a box. And yet we're human beings that also are fans of sports. If we weren't fans of sports, we wouldn't be doing this. What are some of those moments for you? Yeah.
Well, okay. So you brought up the Giannis one. That moment was really special to me, and I'll tell you why. That I've covered Giannis since his second year in Milwaukee. So the 2014-15 Bucks season was my first working at Channel 12. And when I got there, I wanted to attend as many games as possible and develop relationships. You're starting a new job in a new city. You're trying to build a brand. And, Giannis and I had an early connection together, and we just kind of, through years of covering the Bucks, and at the time the Bucks weren't that good, and they started getting good, and Giannis started turning into a superstar, and I was kind of along for the ride, like many were as fans, but I was lucky enough to kind of have a front row seat to it, just being able to cover Bucks games during that period. And that 2021 season was really difficult for sports broadcasters because of COVID. And in particular, the NBA had really strict rules, as they should have, for how you were able to interview players and access, and only a certain number of media members got tier 1 access, beat reporters and pretty much team employees. And at the time I was working at Channel 12, and so everything I had to do was on Zoom. And, years of relationship building with Giannis, and those little moments I talked about earlier, about just like taking the few minutes after a locker room to get to know guys and talk to them and humanize them. Relationship building with Giannis and building that trust ultimately led to that moment after the Bucks won a final, because at the time I still wasn't allowed on the court when the Bucks won a final because of the access and it still being COVID. And I was watching the celebration from the stands up, which is as close as I could get to the floor, and Giannis, and he's on cloud 9, right? He just won an NBA Finals, dropped 50 points in the NBA Finals to win MVP, the pinnacle of his career to this point. And he wanted to share it with everybody. And it's not about me, it's just about who he is, that he was able to recognize, like, hey, like, you've been along for this ride too. Like, you covered our losing seasons, and you've been along for my rise and the Bucks' rise, and it meant a lot to me as a journalist and as a person for him to look at me and say, we did it. And he didn't mean me and him. He meant like the Bucks and the collective team and city. And, he valued the relationship that we had built to that point. And it's kind of, everybody wants kind of the instant gratification in this business. They want the quick soundbite. They want the reaction that goes viral on TikTok or social media, whatever it may be. And that was an example of the long play, of something that I try to pride myself in this business of, like, years of building that relationship with Giannis and gaining his trust and talking to him on and off camera about his family and his dad and, what they meant to him. The times that I went to, Dominican high school to shoot his brothers playing high school basketball and do a feature on Giannis watching his brothers play, and talk to him about his son being born for the first time in 2020 before the NBA All-Star game. Like, those moments all culminated into that moment that we shared together on the floor after the NBA Finals, where he wanted to, celebrate with me and the city. And it gave me an opportunity to essentially have a quick one-on-one with him when nobody was getting that access, and he stayed because he cared. And that was something to me of, like, one of the more gratifying moments of my professional career, just simply because of who Giannis is, how he wanted to celebrate it, and the fact that he appreciated the people that were always loyal to him, which, no surprise, is still who he is to this day. And that's something that I always remind myself of, like, it's not always about the quick sound bites and things that might go viral for, 10 minutes and you think it means something. No, like, those aren't the moments that matter. It's how we talked about at the beginning. It's about getting to know these people and understanding how they tick and what makes them tick and what they value. And I think we have similar values in that way, and it kind of showed in that moment. So that Giannis moment for me is kind of the one that stands out. Certainly I've had a number of, like, pinch me, I can't believe I'm standing here moments.
Right.
Ryder Cup was one of them. I just started broadcasting for the PGA Tour this year. ESPN brought me on to do the PGA Championship, so I got to call my first major this past year when I was at, Quail Hollow in Charlotte, and, just standing on the 18th green of the practice rounds, as Rory McIlroy signing autographs of Augusta flags, after winning the Masters, and he's going into his second major, and I'm standing next to him, and just asked him what it was like to be signing Masters flags. It was just me, him, and thousands of fans. And I'm just, like, talking to Rory about winning the Masters off camera, just because I'm a golf fan. And I had inside the ropes access, and we were just talking and like talking about being a dad, to an older girl. And like those are like the kind of moments where I'm like, man, how did I get here?
Yeah.
Like I was like calling high school football, 8-man football in North Dakota on the top of a truck. And like I'm standing next to Rory McIlroy after he just won the Masters, talking about being a dad. Like, whoa. But yeah, it's a pretty surreal industry that puts you in certain positions. And um, as I tell people, like I play in the playpen for a living. But that doesn't mean it was easy to get to this point. And that's why those moments in North Dakota and those moments in Burlington, Vermont, and even, some of the stuff that I did in Milwaukee, at WISN, it wasn't always easy. But the highs are high and the lows are lows in this business. And you just try to set yourself up for as many highs as possible.
The Inside Wisconsin Show is brought to you by Lane's Farm and Fleet, Capital Credit Union, Amplify Health, Festival Foods, Quick Trip, Legit Pizza, and Miller Lite.
Miller Lite means something different to me than it does most other people. My uncle lives in Milwaukee, and I grew up knowing he was working at the brewery. When I used to go over to his house for the holiday season, his basement is covered in retro Miller Lite stuff. I absolutely loved going down there and seeing it all. But as a kid, I didn't really appreciate what that was all about, and specifically what it meant to the state of Wisconsin. Now I do. And I hope you do too, whether it was Miller Park or the Miller Lite Oasis at Summerfest, or taking Miller Lite with you to a holiday gathering this time of year. It's Wisconsin, and it always has been. The best holiday beers are the ones you don't expect. Miller Lite, great taste, 96 calories. Go to MillerLite.com/Inside Wisconsin to find options near you. 'Tis Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Happy holidays, Wisconsin. Nothing in this business lasts forever. Players don't last forever. Jobs don't last forever. I mean, this is one of the more volatile businesses. Thanks, Internet. Appreciate that. So what's next? You talk about chasing your dream job. To many people, whether it was at Channel 12 as a dream job or now doing what you're doing with FanDuel and the Brewers and the Bucks, I mean, you travel with the team, correct?
Yeah. With the Bucks this year, I've been traveling, doing pre-post and sideline for a number of games this year too. It's so hard. Like the 5-year plan just like isn't a reality anymore in this business. It's the 5-week plan right now. I'm just trying to get through the NBA season, and we'll see what the Brewers season looks like. I know they'll be back on FanDuel, so that's exciting. And I've being able to add golf into the mix for me was always a personal career goal. It's my favorite sport to play. It's my favorite sport to watch. I have a radio show on ESPN Milwaukee here in the market with Gabe Neitzel called On the Tee. And we're just golf sickos who like spend 1 hour a week just talking about the game we love, whether we're playing or we're reacting to the professional game. And then, being able to go down to Ponte Vedra and broadcast out of the PGA Tour studios for, I did 7 PGA Tour events last year. I'll do probably 7 plus this upcoming year as well. Just trying to keep growing in that space as much as possible. Like that's where, having the background in reporting, play-by-play, hosting, you can never make yourself too valuable. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do at this point, just diversifying as much as I can, calling as many sports as I can, and really focusing on every opportunity. Like I'm in the business of saying yes until I can say no. So if there's an opportunity right now that sounds good, like I'm all in. But I love the balance I have right now of PGA Tour golf and hopefully calling more majors down the line, and then being at the professional level for Brewers and Bucks. It's a great spot for me right now, and I couldn't be happier.
I have to remind myself that I have my dream job both on the radio and with this podcast when my alarm goes off at 4 a.m. And like, dude, you were chasing this. This is what you dreamt of.
Yeah. Like I got home at 2 a.m. after that Bucks game, and I was up with my kid. My kids didn't care, but it's like, you realize what you just got to do the previous 24 hours. And Only a select few get to do what we do. And I know you appreciate it and I appreciate it. And we don't apologize for it, but we also worked hard to be here. So it's important to remind yourself of, all it took to get to this position as well.
You mentioned Gabe Neitzel, and I shared with you that I actually trained Gabe on the board when he first started his radio gig. I was at that same radio station when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And I've told Craig this via email. I give my career all the credit to a guy named John Mosier. He was the GM at the stations in Beaver Dam. And when I was off to college to play basketball, I'm like, all right, man, I got this. Radio, TV, film, right? And he goes, no, marketing. And I said, no, radio, TV, film. But it was the best advice I got because, to your point, if you pigeonhole yourself into one thing, this is a short business.
Yeah.
And I chose to learn the business side of this business first, so that someday when I get to be on camera or on the mic, I understood what makes this thing tick. So yet I never want to stop being a fan. And so as we wrap up this chat, how have you allowed yourself to stay a fan? And I ask everybody that's in this business this, because I, for lack of better terms, I'm not a journalist. I'm a fan that I've been given opportunities as a fan to tell stories and talk to guys like you and others like a fan and not someone necessarily that's a journalist. So do you ever get the chance to be a fan still?
Oh, yeah. I'm a diehard Philadelphia Eagles fan. That's a part of, like, you can take the kid out of Philly, you can't take the Philly out of the kid. And now that I don't cover
you're not a jerk.
Yeah, I'm trying to change that brand a little bit.
Good,
Like, we're not all throwing batteries and snowballs at Santa Claus. All right. I've witnessed it. Don't get me wrong. Those people are real, but not all of us. Maybe the Midwest has made me soft. I don't know.
Good. No, welcome.
But no, like I was just at Lambeau for the Eagles Packers game a couple weeks ago. My dad came to Lambeau. That was one like that.
As a fan.
As a fan, a core memory for me. And I've covered tens of games at Lambeau Field over the years, but like that's one of my favorite memories that I'll have at that stadium because I was with my dad watching the Eagles play the Packers. I think the fan thing, it's interesting. We certainly get jaded in this business because we get to watch guys courtside warming up and be on the field for some games, or for me working Bucks games on the sideline, just being like right in the huddles, and but that's very much work. It certainly is a different dynamic. Like the Brewers postseason, because we don't have rights. Like I sat in the stands with a beer in my hands and like had so much fun as a fan just watching baseball because like I love sports. And like I'm still a fan of sports, but like I'm also more of a fan of people. So like that's how I approach my job. It's not so much like the X's and O's. It's like getting to understand who these people are, what makes them tick, what makes them different from me, what makes them similar to me. So like I try to compartmentalize that. Like, but the fandom will never leave me because if I stop loving sports, like I need to change jobs. But like there are still teams that I'm very passionate about, the Eagles being one of them. But it's hard not to be fans of the teams that I cover because their direct successes make my job a lot more fun. So of course I'm a Bucks fan and I'm a Brewers fan. But like ultimately being a fan, like when I'm not covering a Bucks game, I'm usually at that game with my wife. Like and like that's important to us, or with my kids. I took my daughter to a Bucks game 2 weeks ago and it was like one of the most fun nights I've ever had at Fiserv Forum. So making sure that I remind myself of those opportunities is really important, and being able to escape and take that time. Like I just love being around sports. Pretty much any sport I can get a ticket to, I'll go just to experience it, because fandom is kind of what makes our blood pump, because that's who we're doing it for, right? Like,
amen.
That's what you have to remind yourself of. Like when you're on set, you're looking into a camera, and like it's not about you. It's about delivering this for the people who are watching you. And that's what keeps it fun and keeps us engaged, is remembering who you're doing it for.
Do a morning radio show, Steven, and then open yourself up to a text line and allow people to share with you what they think of your opinion. Yeah. Remind yourself real quick, it's about the fan.
Yeah, exactly. Talk radio. That's another ball game, man.
It's something, man. 3 quick ones. 1, who's the better golfer, you or Baden?
Mark Baden?
Mark Baden.
Oh, I mean, it's not even close. I love you, Mark, but like, I'll take down Baden any day.
Wow, he's pretty good, I think.
No, I know.
How many hole-in-ones?
I hope he sees this.
I hope he sees this
that.
too. How many hole-in-ones?
One. I had my
Okay.
first, what was it? 2023 or 24. Wisconsin Club. I'm a member of Wisconsin Club, number 11. It was kind of one of those perfect hole-in-ones where it's par 3, little water in front of us, playing about 130 yards. Pin was kind of up on an upslope, so you could see the pin. Hit a perfect shot, spun back, watched it go in the cup. Ended up, it's actually funny you bring up Gabe because we were talking about it on our radio show the week before. If we ever had a hole-in-one, how would we celebrate?
Okay.
And I said I would find the nearest body of water. So my friends who were with me held me accountable, and I jumped in the lake that was right in front of the hole, and finished the rest of that 18 soaking wet, but it was worth it. So yeah, I have one hole-in-one.
Well, from a guy in the business and a fan of Wisconsin sports, I hope you end your career here too, brother. You're good at what you do. You're great in the community, and we just are appreciative of you joining us here, man.
Yeah, thanks for the time. It was a blast, and a big fan of yours and the show, and hopefully we can do it down the line as well.
Farmers, brewers, hunters, packers, badgers, cheeseheads, neighbors. No matter what name we go by, we are bound together by our roots. These are the people, the stories, and the statriotism from inside Wisconsin. Welcome to Deeper Roots with Blaine's Farm and Fleet. Another episode of Deeper Roots with our friends at Blaine's Farm and Fleet has us in Racine.
Yep.
With Carrie Milkey. Where are we and what do we do here?
We're in the middle of the veteran village here at Veterans Outreach of Wisconsin. So we're surrounded by 16 tiny homes that we utilize to house homeless and at-risk veterans. This is our little neighborhood back here.
When a veteran comes here that's in need from homelessness or at risk, it's not just a landing spot. It's really for lack of better terms, a reacclimation.
Our program director is a social worker and a peer support counselor here that meet with veterans that come into our village, talk to them about what got them into this situation, ways that maybe they could move forward in life, what they'd like to do. We work up a plan with them. Veterans can stay here for up to 2 years to kind of work through that plan, get their feet back underneath them, and in a position to move forward in life. Average is about 14 months, but they could stay a little longer than 2, a little less than 14 months, whatever it takes to get them where they need to be.
When they arrive, what condition do you find them?
Sometimes they come with belongings and sometimes they come with nothing but the clothes on their back. So we start from where they're at.
So is this the only spot like this in Wisconsin, or are there others that do what you do?
Currently, we're the only site that has tiny homes. There are a couple of other nonprofits around the state that have started initiatives and are in the process of fundraising or building, etc. One in Rhinelander, one in Green Bay, and one up in Milwaukee.
I find it interesting that the name of this is Deeper Roots. And so many stories that we've told over the years are about established roots. And here we are attempting to help people reestablish roots here in Wisconsin.
You know, we know that veterans are important parts of our communities. They volunteer more hours, they vote more often, they do all of those things in our community. By using this space, we have veterans who will reconnect in their communities and become really important supporters of the work that their communities do. We ask all of our residents to do community service work every month, and it's a reminder that they're a part of something bigger than themselves and bigger than this little village.
And you have an amazing, we'll call it social quarters for them to partake in, showers and a kitchen and food.
Yeah, so part of kind of figuring out how to meld back into the community from where you're at, it's an area to practice, right? Practice that socialization, practice learning how to cook on my own, practice doing my laundry. So that practice becomes really a stepping stone to moving out of here and moving forward.
At the Veterans Outreach of Wisconsin, you have a giant campus here.
Yes,
with
we do.
all sorts of things to support veterans. Will you take us around and show us how you do that?
Love to. Everything is open to our residents 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So this room is classroom. We have AA meetings in here, peer support counseling, resident meetings, art therapy. We provide all the food. Refrigerator and freezer are full.
I noticed the Milwaukee Tool logo. It says up on the wall over there, thank you for your service. I would assume that you have partners here in the Milwaukee, Racine, Kenosha community that help fund this.
Part of my job is to inform groups of people about what we do here and invite them to donate, whether that's funds or volunteer time. Milwaukee Tool and SC Johnson were both corporate sponsors that helped us when we moved into this building remodel. This is their dining area. We have computers for their use, their living area. They have a gaming system, pool table, and all that. But come on back, I'll show you our tiny homes. Come on and see.
You said you had 16 of, wow.
Yes, we do.
Wow, so it's literally its own little community here.
It's its own neighborhood. Everything you see here was donated in some form or fashion, whether that was the money to build one of these houses, the labor that it took to build a house, the furnishings that are inside the house. Everything that's out here, the flagpoles, the flower pots, the lawn chairs, all of those things are donations.
It's kind of a good sign when there's vacant some of these, meaning that there are people that they've helped, so much so that there's an empty one. Pretty sweet. I mean, it feels like a cabin, kind of.
It is, and each one of them is a little different depending on who built it. So some look a little more modern, some have the beds up in lofts, and some have the beds down on the floor.
That's the POWMIA, right?
Yes.
Symbol right there with the American flag.
Yes.
And that actually is the siding of one of the tiny homes. Glenn's gonna give us a tour of his pad. This is Glenn. Thanks for your service.
Absolutely.
Really appreciate it. Were you in the Navy?
8 years Navy.
How long have you been here, Glenn?
I've been here 6 months, I believe.
Okay.
It's actually my second time around. First time I came through because of drugs and alcohol. November 1st is 5 years clean and sober.
Good for you, man. Asking for help is the hardest part.
It's very hard, very hard. The second time I came here and I asked for help, it was the hardest thing I ever did.
Did we give you grief when you came back?
Nope, not at all. Open arms, hardest. I got this monkey up my shoulder again. Sure.
Good to go.
I'm happy now.
This is great. Thank you for letting us come in. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Tell me about the food pantry and the food mission that comes along with this.
Our food pantry across the street is open for shopping Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays every week. We serve, at this point, almost 800 veterans every month at that food pantry. Unlike other food pantries where you kind of get a box of items and you got to figure out what to do with it, like I don't know what to do with black beans. They actually get to shop the aisles. We serve only veterans there and spouses of deceased veterans. So if your veteran husband or your veteran wife has passed on, we still allow you to shop.
Wow.
We're not going to give up on your family.
My man, Leon Cahill.
Yeah.
He's a volunteer here at the market side of Veterans Outreach of Wisconsin. And Leon went through the program here too. He didn't live here, but he went through the program. 22 years in the military, right?
22 years, yes sir.
Unbelievable. Tell us about why you've chosen now in your retirement to continue to serve those that served right along with you.
Volunteer helps me to give back in a way, you know. And I love to listen to the stories of the veterans, you know, the older guys. Every day is a different story, and I would recommend it for anyone, you know. If you got a little time on your hand, to volunteer.
Give me a tour.
Okay, we're gonna go through the warehouse, show the stuff that people donated. You got private people that bring food, you know, it's constantly, daily. And we got like a drop box outside that when we're not here on the weekend, they can also drop the stuff. So we have a big freezer here and a refrigerator. We try to keep stock what we can get and get it out to people.
This is where you hold it all.
Right.
Where do you give it all?
Okay, we got to go inside.
A little bit of everything in here.
Like over in this area, we keep certain things like tissues and stuff like that. We have canned goods. They have sodas and place to go check everything out. We got our refrigerator where people come, we tell them how much meat and stuff you can get. You can see there ain't much in here right now because there's lots of people that's coming in.
Leon, if you had a message to somebody that utilizes the program that's not, and yet it's okay to do so, because asking for help's hard, man.
If you got a problem, you know, they might not have every answer, but they know where to go out and try to find it and help you out. So I would recommend it to everybody.
Man, thanks for doing what you're doing. Really appreciate it.
Okay.
Why are you doing this, Carrie?
Well, this is my second round at life. I've retired from my first job after a lot of years. I'm enamored with this place. I love the feeling that I get when I come here every day and know that we're actually providing real help, and I can see it happen in front of us. And I can see people really take on that I'm a part of this community, I'm a part of this whole process, and start doing things for themselves again. And it's a great feeling.
There will be veterans that watch this that need help and aren't getting it. What's the message to them?
So what I'm going to tell you is that almost every staff person here is a veteran. So they get it. They've been down that road. You can trust them to take care of your needs. You can trust them to help you. Call us. Even if you live far away, if we can't help you, we'll find somebody who can do that for you. I think one of my most frequent questions is, what happens when all these houses are full? What's your waiting list like? We don't keep a waiting list. We will find you someplace else to be. And if we can get you into another veteran type facility, we're going to do that. But we're going to provide you the support while that happens.
You've taken quite the vow to support veterans and do what you're doing. And I know they're grateful. You can just see based on the grounds and the upkeep and all the things that they clearly respect here. So thanks for doing what you do.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go try to get up in the loft.
Watch your head on the fan.
Watch your head on the fan. That's the story of my life. I'd fall out of here, I think. I would definitely need my bed down there. Nice little moonroof here.
Yeah.
Very typical of me having to stick my head in the moonroof. In a car. Okay, how do I get down?
Well,
yeah, that's
if you bleed, there's a problem. There you go.
It's like a tree stand. Am I bleeding?
All right. No blood. All right.
That one hurt. Man, just once I'd like to not hit my head on something. What's that like? Maybe someday. Anyway, thanks for sticking around for this important episode of Deeper Roots with Blaine's Farm and Fleet. To those who have served in the military, we just want to say thank you so much. We're forever grateful. A special shout out to Carrie and the entire team at Veterans Outreach of Wisconsin. It literally takes a village to meet the needs of so many of our nation's heroes and their families, and we're just proud to have them right here in the state of Wisconsin, so hats off to all of you. If you're a veteran or have a friend or family member that could use some support, you can head to VOWvillages.com or give them a call. It can be hard to ask for help, but we all need it from time to time, and you heard it from Glenn. They'll welcome you with open arms, so you can get the help and support you need. If you enjoyed the episode as much as we did, let us know. Like, subscribe, share, comment. We appreciate you. If you're listening on the podcast, leave a 5-star review. Until next time, Wisconsin.
Talk to you later. Bye.